right, let's do spoilers for Superman. This is a spoiler-filled review for Superman. If you haven't seen it yet, don't watch this unless you want to be mega spoiled. But I want to talk about all the spoilers, all the stuff, and then, you know, get more of a detailed of why I gave the movie a 7 out of 10. All right, so first off, Superman is nerfed the whole movie. I didn't like that. He was kind of like, the first sequence we get to see him in, he's literally like beaten down. He's like got organ failure. Like, it was just like weird. And they also started off with like 300 years ago, metahumans, and then 30 years ago, Superman landed. 3 years ago, Superman started his superhero career, and then 3 minutes ago, he got his first beat down, which is fine. Well, they also showcase his organs, like in the, what's it called? The Fortress of Solitude. And then they introduce one of the bigger plot points of the movie, which is the message from Jor-El and Lara is corrupted. The first half is like, be a good man, serve the people, we sent you here. And he doesn't know what the second half of the message is. So later, Lex Luthor, the engineer, Ultraman, they show up, and Eve, they show up at the fortress and break in, and she's able to get the message and finish it. And it just so happens to be a smoking gun to allow Lex Luthor to slander Superman. Basically, the second half of the message is, have as many wives as you can, have as many children, rule over them. It just felt like a really contrived plot point. For example, Kryptonese is a dead language, so if Lex tampered with it, people wouldn't know. They just assume he's like, you know, it should have just been him doctoring the footage or whatever, the audio, and people not knowing, right? Because people are dumb. You know, if a billionaire shows up and goes, hey, Superman's here for sinister reasons, it's enough just to have the doubt, you know? Most people wouldn't be like, oh, Lex is a bad guy, like he's obviously faked it. Even if he did fake it, it would still put doubt in the people's minds. But I just felt like the writing was a little too convenient by having that as a smoking gun. And it sort of like, you know, shakes Superman to his core, because he's all like, oh no, I was sent here to rule, and I don't know what to do anymore. And then his dad's like, no, son, you know, it's your actions. You know, we raised you for 30 years, you know, ship shape, you know, stop it. So that being kind of like the smoking gun, the kind of reputation destroyer was, I didn't like that at all. Because in previous Superman stories and mythos, Superman can't have children. He can't unless he gives up his powers. There's like several comic sources. There's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. There's Superman 2. They don't even explain how he has 2 children in Superman and Lois, but that's a spin-off, so they sort of just ignore that. So that's like the only way they've given him children is usually when he's retired or he's given up his powers. He can't just go around making super babies at any moment. So, I mean, like Superboy's a clone, Supergirl's a cousin. He's never had children in the comics very often. So to have that be the plot point of the movie just feels kind of like you're ignoring some of the classic mythos, and I didn't like that. I did like Jarhanpur. In the comics, it's kind of like an Indian-inspired country, so James Gunn made sure that tracked. Moravia, probably Russian, kind of influenced. There's also other fictional countries that they've used in the comics, so that's fine. I didn't like the dictator guy. I didn't like him at all. He didn't have any comic booky kind of like bodyguards or anything like that. And the Justice Gang, we do get a small cameo from Sean Gunn as the leader, Maxwell Lord. Only about 5 seconds. I thought he would be in the movie more, because he's sort of like the leader of the Justice Gang of sorts. There's Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific was given all of the screen time and all of the good scenes. He gets the best action sequence in the film, where he uses his T-spheres to like take out literally everyone in a small camp. Then he like saves the day with his mind and stuff. He's got a cool vehicle. Guy Gardner gets the one cool sequence at the end with the Green Lantern smacking the tanks, but all that's rushed. I wanted more Guy Gardner, more Metamorpho, and more Hawkgirl in the Moravia fight. Hawkgirl does this weird screaming thing. She's not like the Hawk guy in Black Adam. So it was an underwhelming performance for her, but she's not given much to do except throw the dictator out a window. But, you know, it's too stuffed of a story. Wanted more of the Justice Gang, kind of. And then, let's see. Engineer's fine. engineer. She never goes full metal form, but the portrayal of the nanite blood is really good. She can morph into weapons, into blades, into things like that. She can heal with the nanites. I loved the engineer. I hope we get an Authority movie. Ultraman is, I did not like this because it's basically Bizarro, but they didn't have the balls to go all the way. So Ultraman pretends to be the hammer of Baravia. And this is another problem I had with the movie. The first act is all them talking about stuff that we haven't seen. So the first, seeing Superman slammed in the ice, bleeding, coughing up blood. He's got internal damage and stuff. We don't get to see that fight. We just get to see the aftermath. Then they pull him to the fortress where we get the whole message thing, and the robots are talking about oh, this soothes him, we're his caretakers, whatever. If we give him some sun, give him 83% back of his abilities. And then Superman goes back to fight the hammer. And it's short because he's just there to threaten the people of America. And we find out that the hammer of Baravia is Ultraman. Also, Superman goes over to Lois's house. They've been dating for about 3 months, and he wants to make her food. And they do a mock interview where he just bombs it, where he talks about all the stuff he did. He intervened. Why didn't they show any of this? It's all off camera. I had to threaten the dictator. I had to do all this cool stuff, but it's just all talked about, but not. It's just kind of awkward. I thought it was a budget thing, or they just didn't want to have too much. But I'm the movie's got a big budget. You can do all that. You can have flashbacks. You can. I'm where's the hammer of Baravia fight? Where's the shoving that guy into a cactus kind of thing? And so the first act of the movie has all this stuff happen off screen. And then continuing with Ultraman, so he's basically not Ultraman from the comics. Ultraman from the comics is an evil version of Superman that basically is morally bankrupt. Kryptonite gives him power. Blue kryptonite hurts him. And he's from a universe where everyone is bad. So kind of in the modern world, most people don't do crimes, right? But in his universe, it's inverse. So everyone does crimes. There's a couple of 20% good eggs, and they get, put in jail, I guess. And it's kind of weird. And they call him Ultraman only in name. He's technically just a clone of Superman. So at the very end of the movie, Superman does a boss move to knock out the engineer. Ultraman rips off his mask, and he's just a clone of Superman. But he doesn't talk. He's mute. Lex just shouts commands, fight moves, and he just does the fight moves, and there's drones that follow him that can pipe in the commands to his ear. And this fight is just kind of generic because he doesn't say anything, he doesn't have any motivation, he doesn't emote. I was waiting for that one line that just say me love you Superman or something, and you realize, oh, he's saying I'll kill you Superman. That would have been great. Or, okay, so what happens in the final battle is Superman cannot defeat this clone. He's equally as powerful as him. They're slamming each other, and Lex he just keeps shouting these fight moves because he studied Superman for 3 years. So Superman calls in Crypto to tackle the clone, and then he says, fetch and kill those drones. He could have done that at any time with his heat vision, or he could have ear slapped the clone so he can't hear. But Superman really relies on the dog a lot in this movie. So after he defeats after all the drones get cut off, the clone's fighting doesn't get more erratic or anything. It doesn't become less refined. It's the same. And then they fight, and then I think he dislocates Superman's arm, and then Superman shoves him into a black hole. So it's kind of underwhelming because he doesn't have any motivation yet. He is just a henchman, a mindless killing machine. But, as soon as he used heat vision in the beginning of the movie, I knew that the hammer of Baravia was Ultraman. And I suspected that he wasn't Ultraman. He was a Bizarro clone, at least. Or I was hoping Apollo, to be honest. Apollo is kind of like a Superman pastiche, part of the Authority. Maybe he was being mind-controlled or something, or he didn't have his humanity yet, but they didn't want to go in that direction. In terms of other Lex Luthor stuff, he's very petty and weird in this movie, which is good. He keeps his enemies in like a pocket prison. So there's some modern day themes of like violating human rights, keeping people in prison, dark prisons, and using technology, going rogue, doing whatever he wants. But then he doesn't lie about Superman's origin, so that just seems kind of weird. He also plays Russian roulette with a random food cart man that Superman knows by name, and then he dies, which is kind of dark, but it's also like, it feels kind of beneath Lex Luthor to do something like that. It's like, haha, Superman, I have this, random lady you saved from a car accident last week. Let's talk about Metamorpho. So Metamorpho is the Element Man. He's been captured by Lex and blackmailed because they have his baby in a cell across the way. So he's got to use his powers to turn his hand into kryptonite to keep Superman weakened. However, after witnessing that food cart guy getting shot, Metamorpho's like, oh, okay, I changed my mind. I'm going to take away the kryptonite and make a mini sun. They escape. They have some fights with some of the Fireflies, I think they're called. They are like armored goons of Lex. They fly and they have lasers, and kind of a messy action sequence where they escape the pocket prison or pocket universe before Mr. Terrific can close it. That was a thrilling sequence. I like that. And of course, the scene before that is Mr. Terrific slamming all of them with his T-spheres. Pretty cool. Lois is in the movie, but it just kind of feels like she's in the movie for a little bit. She's kind of like the token love interest. She does release an expose at the end to help Superman's reputation, but it also kind of feels like Superman should have more safeguards. Like, for example, he's got an army of cool caretaker robots at the Fortress of Solitude. Why can't he have them access the net and like do counter spam, or like, have them do something for his reputation? Or why doesn't Superman just go on TV and say, hey, that message is taken out of context, or I'm doing an exclusive interview with video for that guy who's always on TV doing interviews. Like, you'd think he would have more safeguards for his thing. He pretends that, I don't go on social media. Superman's above social media, but it's a part of the world, and you'd think he'd get cozy with Cat Grant or something to try to like offset some of the negative press. I feel like Jimmy does more for Superman than Lois, kind of in this movie. It's kind of weird. Also, I didn't like that Superman, he doesn't seem to be a good reporter or very smart. He just interviews himself whenever he needs a story. Don't like that. One of the major things about Superman's character is Clark Kent is actually like a really good reporter. Like, he's really good at writing. His prose is amazing. Even Lex Luthor likes his prose. Like, he's got that buffoonery kind of like mask and stuff, but he's also like supposed to be really good with a pen, and this movie did not showcase that at all, so I didn't like that. And he's nerfed for most of the movie, so Superman's kind of like knocked around for about 75% of the movie, which I did not like. And then finally, when he lets loose, it's kind of rushed. He defeats the Engineer in a pretty cool way. That's probably my favorite Superman scene. And then he takes on Ultraman. It takes a while to kill those drones, man. Like dude, you could have caught on way before, and he took so much punishment while figuring that out. And then at the very end, he takes on the Fireflies, and it's like a quick sequence that's kind of just like throwaway. I mean, it's cool, but it's really short. Like, I wanted more of that throughout the film. Instead, he just sort of doesn't do that. And there's a scene where he saves a squirrel in the middle of like a big fracas with a kaiju, and he does have that sort of like, I don't want to kill everything. And the Justice Gang, they're not too worried about that. I thought that would be a theme of the movie, where like, whoa, Green Lantern just like flipped 40 tanks. Like, pretty sure some of those guys are dead. Or when they kill the kaiju creature, like Mr. Terrific didn't seem too worried about that. And then Hawkgirl literally throws a dictator to his death. So that could be something to explore in a future sequel. One of the most famous Superman stories is What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. It's a amazing issue of Superman where Superman has to deal with the elite. They are a group of metahumans who are not above killing and doing whatever they want. So Superman clashes with them, and he has like a fight with them in space, and then he realizes he might have to do something because they're willing to kill and he's not, and they test him to his limits. And it's a great story, probably one of the best Superman stories. It is done in an animated film, but I would love to see that done in live action. That could have probably been the plot of this movie, to introduce a sort of like Superman super strong, but like he'll never kill, you know, or there's a lot of sequences of him just like rescuing one person, which is fine, but it just feels like a lot of the civilians in Metropolis don't really care about the large threats. They're like eating yogurt like 2 feet away from the danger, or they're just like not driving away. They're just like waiting to get smooshed. They're all dumb. It's kind of weird. Also, I didn't like how everyone was just like believing Lex. He's like, look at me, I broke into Superman's house and I found this message that said he's bad. Like everyone's just like, oh, I guess this billionaire who we trust for no reason, it must be true. He gave us the audio and video footage and it's not doctored. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a little convenient. What else? Lex Luthor and his little nerd gang, I didn't like that because they kept cutting away to that control room. They kind of ruined the flow of the final like climax action sequence. You know, he could have just had him shouting the commands, and then we don't get to see like the 3D model of the fight. Just, you know, the clone smacking him down, and you just know what that means. So there's a lot of monologuing at the end too, which is fine. You know, Superman has his final monologue with the villain, and then Krypto bursts in. I didn't mind Eve Tessmacher, you know, she dorky girl who manages to take down Lex with selfies. Yeah, so there's just too many elements. I feel like they were, like, for example, basically, like, the movie is fine, but it's not taken to super like heights. You've got all the right elements there. Like, Superman is a reporter, he's being attacked reputationally, he's being attacked physically. So you got all the conflict, you know, you feel like he's backed into a corner. And then you got your token love interest, you got the obligatory parents keeping him grounded, you know, there's an escape sequence, there's all the, like, it's going through all the correct beats, but it doesn't have anything super. There's no sequence where he feels like so super. Like, I was waiting for a scene where he lifts the kaiju up and like throws it away or something to save it or something like a monumental feat. The only monumental feat was basically him taking out the engineer, and a really cool move, and like outsmarting Lex. And, you know, just, I kind of feel like Superman was, a lot of people relate masculinity with Superman because he's like bulletproof and super fast and you can't defeat him. So to weaken that a little doesn't hurt his character as a masculine thing. I just feel like this whole movie kind of like just sleeps on him as a character. You know, he's weak for most of the movie, or he's holding back, or he's young, but then he doesn't have any moments where he's like super smart or super awesome. He just kind of feels like a bit of a dullard, and I just don't like that, man. Like, he's not like that in the comics or any other versions. He's not stupid. He's not like, oh, wait a second, these drones are telling the clone what to do, so after like half an hour of fighting, maybe I'll destroy them. It's like, yeah, man, you just defeat communication. Like, obviously, Lex Luthor's, like, you can hear shouting the commands, you know what that means. Like, also, how come he can't counter basic fighting? Like, he's just like really terrible. I guess being a superhero for 3 years, he's never really trained with anyone, I guess. Like, he hasn't met Batman or Wonder Woman, so he doesn't learn how to fight. He just knows how to punch, I guess, and like, he hasn't refined any fighting techniques. But he does have, like, he's friendly terms with the Justice Gang, so I mean, I guess he never learned to fight or anything to counter. He's when you're fighting someone equally strong, I guess he's just like getting whooped. And yeah, just the movie didn't portray him very well as a reporter. He wasn't really strong until the end for no reason, and he spends most of the movie like poisoned by kryptonite or, you know, bleeding all over the place. They're trying to go for a more vulnerable, weaker Superman, but you have to be careful how you do that, right? Like, for example, in Wonder Woman's like one of the finest superpowered warriors, so she really doesn't have any trouble defeating anyone physically. However, the weaknesses in the movie is that she's kind of naive, you know, like she doesn't know anything about the world or how it works. So there's a scene where she's like telling a guy that he'll redeem himself while he's eating a poison pill, or the sequence where the no man's land sequence where she can't do the entire battle on her own. She needs to have backup, and they have to help her in that sequence, or they're just going to pin her down with the fire. So she can't do everything herself. But there's never a sequence where she's just like flopping around, getting blown apart by shells, and just being like, ah, you know, like, because that's not true to her character. Same with Matt Reeves, the Batman. Like, he does get beat up a little bit near the end when he's surrounded by Riddler incels or whatever. But he doesn't spend the whole movie getting smacked around by people because he's only been a superhero for 2 years. The weakness of that movie is that he's too scary, that he doesn't, you know, when he shows up, civilians are also scared of him. He's losing that human element. So the Superman movie doesn't really have, you know, if you want to choose a weakness for Superman, have him be physically weaker, sure. But if you give him too many weaknesses, like, oh, also he's not media savvy, also he's kind of dumb, also he can't fight. I'm like, just like, man, like, he's Superman, not like, this isn't his first, if it was his first like time being a superhero, sure, but this isn't. And he doesn't seem to have any, like, he seems to be really dumb in this movie, and I didn't like that. So that was my biggest takeaway. Also, the message of like his parents rubbed me the wrong way. It kind of messed with his origin, which he shouldn't do. So overall, that's the reason why I gave the movie a 7 out of 10. I mean, it's a safe, perfectly acceptable superhero movie. Like, you could take your kids to it or your family. But I think people are just sort of, they didn't realize that Zack Snyder's a pretty darn good director. Like, I love Zack Snyder. I'm not a Snyder bro. You can just use that to like label me, but Zack Snyder knows how to do action, man. If you think about Man of Steel, some of those action sequences are unparalleled. You know, you think, oh, it's just destruction, I don't like this, but no, man, like some of those flying sequences, there's not enough flying in this movie. The Superman 2025, there's not enough flying. There's like 2 flying sequences and that's it. He doesn't seem to utilize super speed. Like, I would love to see Superman do problem solving and more like, okay, if this guy's as strong as I am, how do I, you know, do something to like counteract him? Like maybe fly under this lead sheeting so he can't see me, or use X-ray vision a little bit more than use super breath. You know, like, and maybe there's powers that Superman has that the clone doesn't have or something, or, and, you know, there's no, it just feels really like awkward at times and really noisy, and like, you know, we are kind of spoiled with the action from Zack Snyder, but even those movies have heart. You know, they have flashbacks and like the world's too big, and then like the scene where they threaten his mom and he just loses his crap, and you know, the bully scene flashback from Man of Steel shows that he has to hold back for most of his childhood, and he gets to let loose on these Kryptonian jerks. So yeah, and Man of Steel's only like a little bit longer, but Man of Steel turns Superman into like a sci-fi epic, like something serious. We get to see Krypton, we get to see his parents, we get to see more world building. It's a little bit darker in terms of theme and a little color, but that movie did do something new and original with Superman. And this new Superman movie, it's just brighter. There's more comic booky elements, and you get all the, you know, the standard, you know, this is his parents, this is his girlfriend, these are his friends and his new enemies, but I kind of feel like you needed more better action and heighten up his super, like, you know, feats and stuff like that, and not make him such a dumb, smackable character. So that's my spoiler-filled review of Superman. One more thing I forgot to mention, absolutely felt nothing for Supergirl. You know, I don't know much about Millie Alcock. She's, you know, an actress. She's in stuff, but she shows up at the end to reclaim her dog, I guess, or to showcase that she's the owner of the dog. And basically, she's like a party girl. So she likes to go to planets with the red suns to be vulnerable and sort of just get drunk, and that's going to be like her character arc of her movie. It's based off Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And it's kind of like a true grit kind of crime story about an alien villain who kills the parents of this little girl. And this little girl teams up with Supergirl in order to get revenge. I don't remember why they're together though, but I remember the journey they go on. They're going to throw in Lobo, and hopefully space pirates. If they don't have that in the movie, I'm not watching it. But basically, that movie's gonna have the same budget of this film, and I don't know if Supergirl endeared enough people with this film. She only shows up for like 2 minutes, and I don't think people are going to be excited for that film, because unless the trailer just wows everyone, it's a long shot, long sort of thing to get everyone to be interested in a side character that's only just been introduced. There was a Supergirl TV show and the 1984 film, but I have an inkling that movie is not going to do well unless they really pump up the advertising on making it like a sci-fi sort of story. So yeah, Supergirl didn't really do anything for me, but we'll see what happens next.